PK in the universe, and I am back again with another video. And today I want to talk about the topic of game collecting addiction. That's right, game collecting addiction. It gets talked about every so often. It's one of those topics I hear every couple of months get brought up. I made a shorts video about this a while ago, and some people saw it, some people didn't. But I thought, what would be interesting to make maybe a more long form version of this topic. A video that's a little bit longer and does a little more explanation, a little more nuance. As far as I'm concerned, in 99.999% of the time, game collecting addiction is not really a thing, okay? There's a lot of people who kind of, over dramatize their collecting habits. I think there's a lot of that going on. They see these, clickbait thumbnails with like Woodhawker, saying, I'm hopelessly addicted to this Nintendo Switch game, stuff like that, and it's like, it's not like he's actually addicted. He's not actually addicted to that game. He's probably playing other things since he made that video, And to me, that really undermines what actual real addictions are, people with kind of substance abuse or, serious compulsions that are actually genuinely destroying their life, And I think there's a huge difference between just being obsessed with something and having it affect your life in an incredibly negative way that actually ruins your life. And I think there's a huge difference. Yeah, I think most of the people who oh, I was so addicted to video games, I was addicted to collecting. It's like you weren't really addicted. What you probably had was a shopping compulsion. You probably still have. Years ago, I made a video series called 12 Games a Year. It was kind of a challenge series where I would only buy 12 games for all of 2020, was it? 2019, 2018? I don't remember when it was. But anyways, I think it was 2018. So I only bought one game every month. And it was fun to think about what games I would actually buy, and actually decide. But here's the thing. Did it stop me from buying other things? Well, no, it didn't. I was buying Ninja Turtle figures. I'd actually buy toys for my son, actually. And, found some really good deals there. I'd buy more DVDs. But I didn't actually stop buying things, I didn't really save any money. I just wasn't buying games at the end of the day. So I could have refined that challenge quite a bit, because I obviously wasn't really saving money per se. I just wasn't spending my money on video games. And that was good, though. That was good for my own mental health. And I tried actually doing where I'd only buy one game for a year, and that lasted about 7 months. So, it was a good run, but I just couldn't meet the challenge because I found a deal that was just too hard to resist. Would I say I have a game collecting problem? I have too many games. That's no denying that I have way too many video games to play. And a lot of them aren't necessarily for me, and some of them I have for nostalgic reasons. There are nostalgic reasons, or someone gave them to me and they're a personal gift, so I just can't part with them, But at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world if I never get another game again, okay? I don't sit here thinking about, what's the next game I'm going to buy? And here's the other thing, too. A lot of people who claim to have gaming addiction or game collecting addiction, what they really have is they're on social media too much. They probably have social media addiction. And that's probably really common, more so than you would think, because we have constant access to it. Constant access to it. We have this little supercomputer in our pocket that I'm literally using to tape myself or to record myself talking to you guys as we speak. It does so many things, and we can, have these apps. And even when we delete our apps, we'll look at it on the web browser, okay? I mean, we have, a lot of people have social media addiction, and they see all these people who they know who are fellow collectors and are collecting these or that games, or maybe you're just going on YouTube looking at pickups videos and collection videos and looking at, game room tours, and you think, I see this thing and I want that thing. That's all it is. Because if you didn't know about it, you wouldn't be looking for it, right? At the end of the day, there's a lot of people who are just plain bored, honestly. It's being bored more so than it is an addiction in a lot of cases. I don't think it's all just, it's an addiction. It's like it's like you're not getting night sweats because you didn't go to the thrift store one day or GameStop or somewhere, or you didn't browse eBay, okay? It's a lot of people who just do not want to take personal responsibility for their collecting habits because they're bored and they're looking for something more meaningful to do. Now, if you have to file bankruptcy because you bought too many games, I guess, yes, you have a serious problem. Calling it an addiction, though, kind of, in my opinion, undermines what real addictions are. Like, I smoked for like 9 years, okay? That was hard to get over. It actually made me physically sick. Not to the degree like someone like, remember RGT85 was in the hospital because he had cardiac arrest or something. You know, it wasn't to that degree. Like, I'd been weaning myself off of that. And I feel like in a lot of ways I do that with game collecting too. Like, if I just, if I just feel like, well, some month I'm like, I don't have too many games as it is, I don't want to buy anything. I have to really weigh the pros and cons and really think deeply about what I buy. And doing like those challenges and stuff help me think that through more. Sometimes it's a huge waste of money to buy a game from the thrift store when you could have been using that money to save for a game you really want. And there's a lot of people who do that. They'll like buy games from the thrift store week in and week out, and then they'll complain about the price of video games being too expensive. It's like, well, if you weren't at the thrift store every week buying cheap games, you'd actually have enough money to buy the games you really want. It's not the smartest way to spend your money all the time, to be honest. I like video games. I like the games in my collection, but if I never got another game, at the end of the day, it's really not the end of the world because I have more than I could possibly ever play. I think a lot of the reason people have large collections is probably because they bought too many games to begin with at a certain point in their collecting journey, and they do not want to sell these games because selling games is a pain in the butt, and I think anyone who knows that already knows that. So, you've got a lot of options. You could put games up on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, or just give them to the thrift store. As far as the whole, being bored, what can you do to not be bored? Here's a crazy idea. Play the games you actually have. I know, so controversial, right? But honestly, if you played them, you'd realize whether you want to keep them or not. And I think that's a huge important part of actually having video games is actually playing them. I know, crazy concept, right? I don't think most people have a collecting addiction. I think that's nonsense. I think at the end of the day, a lot of people just don't want to take personal responsibility for their financial choices. I think that's more likely in most cases than you have some type of serious mental health addiction. You're probably not seeing a therapist because you had game collecting addiction or claim to have had that. If you really do have that and you have a therapist saying you have it, yeah, then obviously you have game collecting addiction. But most of the people saying, I'm addicted to collecting video games, it's like, bruh, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're bored and you don't know what to do with your time wisely. And you should probably try playing some of those games you bought. Anyways, that's all the time I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching and stay awesome in this universe. Thanks. Bye.